Welcome back to Turkish series Stars, the place where headlines soften into heartbeats and the stories behind the smiles finally breathe. If you haven't joined us yet, consider this your invitation. Subscribe, tap join to be part of our growing family, and leave a comment because tonight's narrative isn't just news, it's a quiet storm of memory, longing, and words that never found their way out. At first light in a small village not far from Izmir, a calm morning unraveled when a dark, understated car rolled in and idled by the roadside. It wasn't the kind of arrival that begged for attention: tinted windows, a cap pulled low, sunglasses meant to turn a face into a question mark. People went about their routines until a pair of sharp eyes caught a familiar silhouette. The whisper moved faster than the wind that carried the scent of the river. It was Alp Navruz, alone, composed, distant but present in a way that made the air itself listen. Within hours, the murmur had turned into a living thing. The grocer mentioned it to a customer, who repeated it to a neighbor, who told the woman pouring tea at the corner shop. The same wonder floated through every room and over every table: why had Alp come here? Was he simply passing through, or had the road bent on purpose? For locals, the answer seemed to hover just out of reach, because this wasn't just any village. This was the town tied to Alina Boz's childhood, a place where her family had deep roots and summers had a way of painting long, vivid lines across memory. He didn't arrive with cameramen or an assistant eager to clear a path. He came softly, almost as if he were walking inside a memory that belonged to someone else. The first place he visited was old and humble, a schoolhouse weathered by the sun and softened by time. It was the same place, villagers said, where Alina's cousins had studied, where she herself had once come during school breaks to visit classrooms and teachers who remembered her as a quiet, bright-eyed girl with a steady smile. Alp stood a while at the worn doorway, as though listening for a bell that no longer rang. From there, he followed the slope that led down to the river. There's a tea house tucked into the bend where the water slows, a spot everyone knows as a small sanctuary when the wind goes still and the light wraps everything in its last gold. People say Alina had always loved that exact corner by the water, that she often sat there with friends to watch the surface shimmer and break, as if the river itself knew how to keep a secret. The owner swore that Alp stayed almost an hour. He ordered black tea, no sugar. He took off his glasses but not the cap, and he didn't scroll through a phone. He gazed at the river with that expression people wear when they're trying to hear their own heart speak. As afternoon moved in, he drifted toward the square and paused before the old statue everyone uses as a landmark to meet, to talk, to say goodbye. The coincidence didn't slip past anyone. Only a couple of weeks earlier, Alina had been photographed there, standing beside her family, smiling in a way that felt softer than fame. If you believe in signs, you don't need more than that. If you don't, the timing is still hard to shrug off. A friend close to the actor confided later that this wasn't a random detour after an exhausting shoot. He had been looking back more than usual, they said. He'd been speaking about unfinished conversations and emotions that had been folded away instead of resolved. He keeps circling the idea of closure, the friend admitted. But sometimes the circle looks suspiciously like hope. By evening, the internet had turned the whispers into thunder. Fans, who have held space for them both on screen and in imagination, brought the digital world to life with a new round of wishes. Hashtags gathered and flew like tiny flags. Hashtag Alp back home, hashtag Alina and Alp forever, hashtag second chances. Each one carried the same heartbeat, a belief that maybe, just maybe, the story wasn't over. Yet what touched those who were there wasn't a statement from a publicist or a slick paparazzi shot. It was a memory offered by an elderly neighbor who knew the Boz family long before the billboards and premieres. She said she'd seen Alp standing quietly outside a familiar house, looking up at a window like one listens at a door before knocking. He didn't ring. He didn't call. He let the moment pass across his face, sighed in a way that seemed to loosen something inside him, and turned away. You could see it, she said. The feeling was right there in his eyes. Not long after, a passerby filmed a short clip of him returning to his car. The village hum was low, the sort of quiet that makes everything feel closer. His voice was barely above a breath, but the words rose clear enough to travel beyond the town limits. Some places hold more than memories. That one line unraveled the internet's restraint. Within minutes, feeds overflowed with interpretations, questions, and meanings layered upon meanings, as if a single sentence could carry an entire history on its back. There was also a rumor, as there always is when old stories begin to stir. According to unverified accounts, Alp had received a letter, not from Alina, but from someone who knew her before she belonged to the world at large. A childhood friend, the whispers claimed. The note allegedly said that real love doesn't disappear, it learns how to wait. Whether that letter exists remains unknown. But once the idea took root, it sprouted everywhere, because destiny always finds a willing audience. Just before he left, a local journalist from Izmir managed to catch him for a moment. She asked, gently, if his visit was connected to Alina. His answer was neither a confirmation nor a denial, it was an opening. He smiled, a small something that didn't touch the edges, and said, "Some stories deserve a different ending." Then he slipped into the driver's seat and pulled away without checking the mirror. In Istanbul, Alina's team said nothing at all. Silence can be the most eloquent statement when the world is loud. Still, a friend close to the actress admitted that she had been told he'd come to the village and that the news had reached a quiet place in her. "She's in a steady chapter," the friend explained. Focused on her work, on a calmer rhythm. Hearing he was there didn't hurt. It made her thoughtful. She's trying to understand what it awakens. That evening, eagle-eyed fans caught a brief story on Alina's Instagram, a short video of the river, the same curve of water the tea house overlooks, paired with a single line that lasted only minutes before it vanished. Nothing ever returns the same, but everything leaves a mark. It was enough to set the internet on fire again, because echoes have a way of making people believe in maps. Television panels and talk shows moved quickly. One commentator said what many were thinking: Alp isn't the type to choreograph a performance for attention. If he went there, it wasn't to pose. It was to find something, an answer, a goodbye, a forgiveness that doesn't need witnesses. Others speculated that this pilgrimage wasn't necessarily a doorway back into romance, but a bridge toward peace, the kind that lets two people rewrite the way their names sit next to each other in memory. Then came the footage from a security camera at the Riverside Cafe, the kind of grainy clip that looks more like memory than proof. It showed Alp sitting alone, head bent toward the table. For a moment, he wrote something on a napkin, folded it carefully, and left it beneath the empty glass. Later, the owner said the letters on it were simple and blue. AB, was it a message to be found or a private ritual, a way to place the past down gently instead of carrying it like a stone? No one could say. But in a time when feelings often live and die on screens, that napkin became a relic, a small, tangible thing that people could believe in. Before leaving town, he stopped at a tiny flower shop that closes when the owner feels like it and opens when the sun decides. He chose a small bouquet of wildflowers, not roses, not lilies, nothing grand or rehearsed. When the shopkeeper, nosy in the way of all shopkeepers who have the right to care, asked who they were for, he answered with a line that felt like a door left slightly ajar: "For someone who still lights up my days, even when she's far away." Screenshots of that sentence traveled faster than any car could. Underneath the frenzy, the narrative was simpler, almost tender. A man had returned to a place connected not only to the woman who had shared parts of his story, but also to the version of himself he'd almost forgotten. A columnist put it in a Sunday piece that readers tore out and kept: Alp didn't go back for Alina. He went back to stand face to face with the self that only she recognized without trying. Sometimes a line like that isn't a headline. It's a mirror. Neither of them has spoken in public since the village morning stretched into its unforgettable afternoon. Perhaps it's better that way. Because as fate would have it, both are expected at the same charity gala in Istanbul in the coming days, a polished room where cameras flash softly and words are chosen as carefully as handshakes. Fans are already bracing for the smallest sign, the quick spark of eye contact, a nod that means more than necessary, a photo that quietly turns a page. So tell us, what does this mean to you? Was Alp's journey an act of love pressed between the pages of time, a search for closure tied up with quiet gratitude, or the whisper of a farewell he needed to say out loud to hear it himself? Do you believe the universe sometimes arranges the pieces just so, offering two people a second chance when they least expect it? Or was this the gentle revisiting of a chapter that now reads differently but still matters? We want to hear your voice in this. Your insights, your theories, the way you connect dots that the rest of us missed, that's what keeps this conversation alive. And before you go, remember why Turkish series Stars exists, not simply to share who, what, and when, but to listen for the reason beneath it all, the why that turns stories into something we feel. Like, comment, subscribe, and tap join if you'd like to help us keep telling the tales the world senses but can't quite hold. Until next time, keep your heart unlocked, your curiosity awake, and remember this simple truth we witnessed on a quiet riverbank near Izmir. Sometimes the strongest answer arrives in silence, and sometimes a single glance back is really a step toward the future.